Feminism in sports benefits teenage girls' health. The major problem addressed in this presentation is negative gender stereotypes in the United States sports industry. These kinds of stereotypes serve as a reminder that female bodies are valued for how they appear, even in situations where they should be valued for what they can do. For instance, according to this graph on the left, it shows how often girls are limited to sports participation compared to teenage boys. And these types of sexist beliefs suffer girls suffer from this because they are often limited because of their gender. And sadly, according to this graph on the right, it shows how often girls are risking depression because of all the mental hardships that they go through. And this also means that sexist beliefs create serious health risks for these girls because then they have low self-esteem, low body image, and they risk abandoning their physical health. This is when feminism in sports comes in handy. Women in feminism in the sports industry, they face discrimination almost every day, which is why they are a fantastic source to help teenage girls face gender stereotypes. Now, according to this graph on the left, it shows how recent rates of girls' participation in sports have grown thanks to this movement addressing gender inequality and reassuring girls that they are competent and sufficient. Now, according to this graph on the right, it shows that the more physically active a lifestyle is, the healthier it is, which is why feminism has helped girls' health rise recently. This leads to the thesis that rising feminism in the sports industry has both psychologically and physically helped teenage girls in the United States during the last 6 years by spreading awareness, including girls in physical activity, and encouraging female empowerment. The first thing that these feminism industries or in the sports industry have done is create nonprofit sport and education programs. According to a sports-based positive youth development for girls, they said that many of these programs have shown successes and represent an improvement over programs that rely solely upon sport to create positive social change and reduce at-risk behavior. To further add context to this quote, this graph on the right shows how highly involved female athletes are less susceptible to try drugs and perform risky behaviors that can sabotage their lives and careers. That is because these girls are often given tools to counteract serious life obstacles. And therefore, this means that girls who are educated are therefore going to create a stronger generation of women who are more intellectual and healthier, with good morals all around the United States. The downside to these programs, though, is that they are not prioritized or popular in the United States. According to this graph on the left, it shows how very few states of the nation require health education. Almost none of these states require medically accurate information, which means that some of these programs are even misleading. Now, according to this graph on the right, it shows how high teen birth rates have been recently in the United States due to the reckless behavior of these uneducated women. A key part of feminism in the sports industry is female athlete role models. They inspire millions of girls to aspire their dreams because they do not feel alone in their battle with negative gender stereotypes. This is a message from Marta Vieira da Silva, arguably known as the best female soccer player in the world. Women like Marta reassures girls that they can become successful in their lives and do not need the approval of people who view women as insufficient and untalented. This proves that feminism in the sports industry creates mental toughness in girls to become more confident in themselves. The objection to this claim, however, is that female elite athletes receive less media coverage than male athletes. According to several media portraits of female athletes in sporting events, only 8% of articles are written by female sports journalists, and 88% of media coverage is dedicated to male athletes. This mostly means that journalists are often limited to males' perspectives, and most of the media coverage often goes to male athletes and their goals, leaving females behind. Now, according to this graph on the right, it represents the social pressure put on female athletes when trying to create a brand for themselves. They must act a certain way, first of all, and not usually like themselves. And second of all, they must be feminine and attractive enough to become successful in branding, which again brings back the theme of gender stereotypes holding back women. Now, according to the second part of this graph, it also shows the hardships that they go through when trying to publicize themselves. They must be good at something else, not only be successful in their sport, have an amazing skill. They are supposedly not interesting to viewers. And thirdly, they do not have the experience of managing their own brand, which is a massive setback for females who want to spread a message across an audience. Benefits in the brain. Girls are often encouraged by feminists to become active, and therefore their mental health, body image, and self-esteem benefit from the training. According to this graph on the left, it shows when high levels of stress are operating in the person, the risk of depression goes higher. This correlates with girls who are often rejected by gender stereotypes, and then that explains the high percent of teenage girls who are depressed. However, when a person is performing physical exercises, their stress hormones level down and the risk of depression goes along with that. To further explain this study on the right, explains a conducted research between two groups of women who performed exercise and those who did not. The women who performed the exercise seemed overall happier and more fulfilled with life than those women who did not perform the exercise. This only proves how becoming active can become beneficial for anyone's life, and that is what feminism wants to do with privileged girls. They want to use sport to give girls that opportunity. One substantial limitation to this, though, is the risk of falling into the female athlete triad syndrome. To add context to this, the syndrome is a combination between disordered eating, amenorrhea, and osteoporosis. And unfortunately, female athletes are more likely to fall into this than non-athlete females. According to this infographic on the right, it shows a very high percentage of female athletes reported disordered eating and symptoms of the syndrome. This altogether hurts the purpose of including girls in sports in the first place, but that happens because social pressure on body image for these females, it makes them want to change their diet, restrict their diet, and impact their hormonal balance. But girls, when they do physical exercises, they also physically benefit from the exercise. According to the Department of Environmental and Occupational Health, they conducted a study between female athletes or very active females to sedentary or non-athlete females, their general health. The results showed that the general health of active females lift was much better than the women who did not have any kind of physical activity integrated in their lives. And the graph on the right shows how physical exercise is related to a strong and good immune system, nervous system, and pain fatigue sensors. This means that physical fitness and health is increased when girls are finally participating in sports and given that opportunity. The limitation to this claim, however, is a culture of injuries in sports. This graph shows a substantial number of both male and female athletes who have experienced ACL injuries during high school, which can cause permanent damage in their bodies, and then they cannot do any more physical exercises later on in their lives. This, again, hurts the purpose of including girls in sports in the first place, because if they don't look after themselves, they are very probable of hurting themselves. This concludes the presentation. Do you have any questions?
I do have two questions for you. All right, first question. How valid and reliable are the sources that you used, and how do you know they were?
They're very credible because each one of these sources, I found them as peer-reviewed journals or academic articles, especially through the Valencia thing, the library. Yes, through there.
All right, and the second question. If you had more time, what additional research would you have conducted on this issue?
About the female athlete triad syndrome. It's definitely something that has to be more acknowledged because it can affect a lot of female athletes. And disordered eating is something that is really a really horrible experience for anyone who can be in that. But it's interesting how social standards can impact even girls who are very active, because usually it's people who do not do any kind of exercise, but even if you are very athletic and have a very good body, it still can affect you.